nebulized medicine stuff and all that. And that's the one bit of gaming I still get in, and it has to be something like Balatro, because I can only do it in 5 to 10 minute increments. So, God, thank you for Balatro.
It's a solid game. I'm looking forward to what he does next. All right, we should be live. We're live on Twitch, and we should be live on YouTube. Yep.
Yeah,
I got the list of games.
Open that up.
Okay.
All right, Jar, whenever you're ready.
Man. Sure. Okay. All right, fellas. Let's jump in that intergalactic spaceship and let's go hunt some space pirates. And some floating jelly beans. I don't know what they are, but we're going to talk about them today. Metroid catalog and the tier ranking system. Today on
Damn delicious.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Press B to Cancel. I'm your host this evening, Chardmonk. With me, as always, are 3 out of the 4 greatest people I know on the planet Earth, Zeebs and other numerically alphanumeric planets that we're going to land on during this discussion. Sick Jake, Werewolf, and my boy Guy Prime. Guys, how are we all doing today? Sick Jake, how are you doing today, sir?
Great. I'm glad it's Friday as always. Really looking forward to kind of running down these games. I love this franchise.
Excellent. Werewolf, how about you, sir?
I'm doing pretty darn good. I just got a new prescription for my glasses yesterday. I'll have those in a couple weeks. And I just beat Bloodstained, so
Everything's coming up, Millhouse.
yes.
GP, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, feeling wonderful, glad to be here. I love French fries.
French fries are delicious.
Samesies.
Treat.
Yeah,
Samesies.
fries are good.
Fries are good. The local Canadian fries are good.
Let me tell you guys about poutine. Have you guys had poutine before? Do they have poutine down there?
This is a Christian podcast. Let's not talk
We're not the 7 minutes in. Don't be bringing up words like that.
I don't know if we
Right.
want to make that association right now.
All right.
Yeah.
As Jake mentioned, we are going to be talking about one of our favorite franchises. Wolf has got it subtly placed in his background. I am also bearing it on my chest right now. We're going to talk Metroid, and initially we were going to kind of discuss a couple of our favorite games out of the tier. We thought about a Mount Rushmore thing. We thought about ranking brackets, but we just did brackets not too long ago. So what we're going to do is something mildly different, but still very popular amongst the children and the Gen Zers these days. We're going to do a tier system of, I believe, is it every game in the catalog?
I mean, if it's in the Wikipedia, then it's on my list. Yes. Just like what the kids like.
Definitely.
They just love it when we pull from Wikipedia and rank things.
We're going to bring that
bracket, by the way?
No cap.
Yeah, I need to change some of my things. Like,
no,
let them cook. Go off,
Skibbity
King.
Riz now, right? Isn't that what it is?
Skibbity Riz.
Yeah.
Wow. You want to see 4 old dudes talk totally
That's
out of
Pretty outhouse,
character.
right? That's what it is.
Sound like my dad, but I hate you, son.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. We're going to go in particular order. I'm assuming we'll go by the year, and we'll just start with the first one and kind of travel our way. So I guess the process will be, we'll call out the ranking of what we think, discuss the game. If we've played it, there's a good possibility that it's on the list, but we haven't touched it. We've already admitted to a few. And then you're going to just pick the 4 of us? Will have our lettered numbers up here, Jake? Is that what?
No, we can all agree, I think, on A, B, C, D, or S tier. I think we all agree on everything for the most part.
Okay.
Or be flexible.
So a single grade for
despite the spirit
each
of the title
forward
of this episode.
You just want us to argue about something. That's fine.
I have a question. If we're ranking these, are we ranking them against the franchise, or are we ranking them as video games in general?
Let's just do individual.
It gets skewed.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I assume it was against the franchise.
Yeah.
Because,
well, I was thinking just on their own merits.
Really?
You think so?
Well, because they're all going to be A's and B's at worst. for the most part if we do that. But if we're
You-
ranking them
Okay.
against
The
the
other
rest
end?
of the franchise, I think there's going to be a little more variation.
I think
yeah,
I agree with Wolf on that one. Yeah.
I
Okay.
agree.
I mean, they're all
Okay.
great games. Well, most of them are great games. So I think
Well, that throws all my stuff just right out.
Wow. Let me get my tear.
if you want, I can pull out some mystery envelopes. We can just shake this really up.
There.
You
Nope,
know.
we are
I-
okay.
Nope.
Please, dear
I
God,
ripped-
Let me
do not-
tell you, how Lemmings
Ripped
is
up
a
that
Metroid
envelope.
game.
Nope.
You know.
Yeah,
Ripped that
what did
envelope.
the thing end up coming out with the voting machine?
It came out 50-50. And that was
did.
with Jake voting in it as well.
I also
No,
voted. I
did too.
actually made it 50. So you're welcome.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, because
Lemmings is an
went to
RTS
50.
game, but that's fine.
Disagree.
I'm glad the poll
Disagree.
worked out
Half
in my
of us
favor.
don't believe you.
God.
All right, let's get through this list. We got at least 10 minutes to get through this list.
Yeah, let's do this.
All right.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right. So first off, obviously, is the predecessor to all Metroidvanians. It is Metroid. It is Metroid. Metroid 1 from 1986. Metroid hits the Nintendo, not the Super, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and blowing us all away with not only the fact that it was a backtracking, puzzler game back then, but we also found out the protagonist was female, which was pretty unusual for the time. Usually, somebody in a full suit of armor typically was a male protagonist, but at the end took her helmet off and it was Samus. Samus was a chick and we all flipped out about it. I thought that was a cool thing that they did back in 86. So what are our rankings on Metroid? I'm going to give Metroid, I want to give it an A or a B personally. It's obviously got its issues. It's got a lot of problems with it, but with the problems comes some really cool shit. I wouldn't call it polished because it is an 8-bit, first time Metroidvania and working through it. But man, without it, you wouldn't have any of the other cool stuff. You wouldn't have the Bloodstains. You wouldn't have Castlevania Symphony of the Nights. You wouldn't have like all that really cool stuff, the stuff we play now that we play fairly religiously. So I'm leaning on an A or a B for Metroid for myself.
I don't know with this one. I know you got to respect it for being the first one in the franchise, but if I were to play this game again, I have beaten it a couple times, but if I were to play it again, there's a really great ROM hack that adds a map to it, because without a map, this sucks, right?
Yeah.
And without the ability to save, just the thought of that password screen keeps me up in sweats at night. Like the passwords were the worst with this when you're a kid, and the lack of a map was a slap in the face, especially when there's multiple areas like corridors that look identical. They look the same, colors, tiles, everything. And without a map, it's very confusing. I think this is a game that was implemented much better later on. I respect it for what it is, but I would never play it again today in 2024 without that hack to give you a map, honestly. I think it's more of a C or a D, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Maybe a D.
Wow.
I like it.
You're really,
but
you're
yeah.
really kicking it in the shins there.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna meet you guys in the middle there, and I'm gonna say it's a B or a C. And
Okay.
that's because for me, while yes, it is dated, you have to think this game came out in what, 86? So
86.
for the technological limitations of the time, you have to think of all the wild shit they did to make this game fit on a cartridge. And it's a massive game. It's a huge map. They really played some programming tricks on that little NES cartridge to make it work. And they did a really good job. And this was also the age of when, you whipped out a piece of graph paper and you mapped out the games a lot of the time.
Right.
So this was not something that was foreign at the time. Back then, it was like, well, I got to make a map. I got to write down the path. You had a book of passwords and you had a book of maps, right?
Yep.
So
And fatalities.
NES took out. And fatalities, yes.
Fatalities,
it
yeah.
kind of fits for the time, but yeah, it does show its age. However, like, again, this was the first of the Metroidvanias, really, in terms of what we think of them now. Yeah, there were like one or two that came before, but this is the one that really kicked off the popularity. And even back when I was a kid and I sucked at this game, I wanted to play it so much. Like, I play it pretty regularly and always terrible at it, and still went back for more. Like, so that says something for it.
Right on. Yeah, I agree out of all you guys most with Wolf. I'm going to rank this a B. I think it's very analogous to the original NES Final Fantasy. For what it was at the time that it came out, it was wildly impressive. Graphically, it did what it was supposed to do. They really used the extent of the cartridge, to what they knew about. Hold on a second.
Yeah, but the original
Sorry.
Final Fantasy was good though.
Okay,
So
but here's
I
the
like
thing.
that one.
It's
Final
also
Fantasy-
stupid, clunky, and
Yeah, very
really
buggy.
And it had things,
Yeah.
again, analogous to, well, it didn't have a map. Well, Final Fantasy, if you were aiming at a bad guy that died, between the time that you selected to attack him and your turn, it was a missed turn. So they've re-released it and fixed those kind of things. And they've done that
Yeah.
with Metroid. There's ports or various versions that have the map. So I'm going to put it at B. I love the game. I think what they accomplished was great. I think laying the foundation for the graphics as well as the music was a very impressive feat in and of itself.
Yes.
So I lean much more into the B than a C, but conversely, it's not an A. So I think B is right. So
It is technically impressive for a game, for sure. I love how
86.
it uses all the buttons on the damn controller, right? Like even for missiles, you have to hit select, I believe, right? So it takes advantage of everything they give you. I do like how the map is huge. The finding of the missile tanks, the E-tanks, all that hidden secrets. There's a lot there. I mean, this is the Metroid and Metrovania. This is what defines the genre. So I definitely appreciate it. Look, we couldn't afford graph paper in Canada, okay?
That's
I
why you
want a
have
map in the
friends
game.
who had it. I grew up with D&D
Yeah.
players. Like somebody knew
Yeah.
how to do this shit.
Yeah.
I did not do it, but the people around me did. I also want to say in the Sacred Timeline, this is where it branched into. Okay. If you're a completionist, there's no way that you know that before Metroid comes out.
Yeah.
But I think that's where like that thing got awoken in some of us, where it's like, no, I have to do all of it.
Yeah. Well, shit, you didn't even know the stuff was out there. Like it took somebody showing you. It's the first example of like when we all played Baldur's Gate 3 together and found that there were things that nobody else did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first of it, of being like, did you find this missile tank or this E tank over here? You're like, what? No, I didn't
Yeah.
know it was there. And then you have to backtrack and go find it. And yeah, and then just like GP said, it just unlocks that completionist in you to go and hunt that stuff down. So
Oh.
this was the first time of my life that I spent way too much time of my life on something I shouldn't have.
Well, and I'll talk more about this later, but also the sequence breaking, which I didn't know
Yeah.
about as a kid, but that's a whole other subgenre that is just so.
I mean,
wonderful.
think about growing up and having so many linear games in front of you, Final Fantasy being one of them. You have to do things in a certain order to progress. This was one of the first groups of games where there was you could go. I don't know how true Metroid, the first Metroid, is. Obviously, in later installations, there were different variations. We can almost claim that it got more like open world a little bit. It's still very linear. Don't get me wrong, but we can also discuss that this was the first chance of like being able to freely explore in other areas, at least in
Sure.
later installments that allowed for that. Till Zelda came along and did the same thing. So
You'll hit
these
the
are the
dead
two kind
end,
of games that did that.
but you have the option to explore. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah. I do like how it's not a straight up platformer. Like there is more freedom of movement in how you tackle certain areas. So that's fair. So I guess we're leaning towards B. I guess I can't talk you guys down to a C.
No.
All right. Okay. B is fine.
I mean, I'd go B-, but
Okay.
I mean, sure.
How about double B's?
Double B's.
okay. All right. I
right.
can live with a B. It's far B minus. That's fine. I think it.
B
I mean, you
minus,
you
okay.
can't not respect the damn game that made the franchise. I get it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. This next one that came out, I'm a big fan of, but I don't think a lot of people are. And it makes me sad because I really enjoyed this installation of the game. I thought it was really cool. 1991, we had Metroid 2 Return of Samus on the Game Boy, the black and white original Game Boy. This game burned many a battery out in my Game Boy. I played the ever-living crap out of this, and eventually in my adult life went out and got the badge for it, where you actually had to beat it in under 2 hours. So that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed playing the game. Yeah, well, streaming allows for
Mhm.
all kinds of different abilities that it didn't allow back in the past. You get 30-minute game times when you're younger, and when you're 42, you could sit in front of your computer for 2.5 hours, and nobody says boo to you until it's 1 a.m. and you have to go to work. But that's different. Uh, I really like the aspect of this game. I know it's in black and white. It's original Game Boy. It is what it is, or green and white, whichever version you're playing it on. But I really, really thought the mutations of the Metroids found on the Metroid home planet was a really, really cool aspect. I liked having to hunt those guys down. It really changed up the way things were done. It just seemed really cool, and it felt like there was always an achievement to go out and find, regardless in the game, because you were just exploring new areas and finding out where the Metroids were and taking them down as you went. So I would give this one, and this is me. I don't expect anybody to follow along with me on this one, but I am going to skew the medium a little bit. I'm giving this one an A because I had a
What?
lot of fun with this one. Yep, I had a ton
They
of fun with
can't
this
all be
one.
A's, Chart. Jesus Christ.
No, don't worry. The next one will definitely not be an A. It'll be much higher. But I really like this game. And again, I don't expect anybody to come along with me on this ride. And I'm sure everybody thinks that it's asinine to even think that. But the gameplay, the fun in it, it had a map. Even the music was pretty good in certain areas when it wasn't just ambient beepings and bloopings. I love this game. This is one of my favorite Game Boy games that was released back in the 90s. So come with me on this trip if you want to. I'm not going to convince anybody to join me because there is a different version of this later on the list. But yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, didn't they redo this with the Super Nintendo equivalency for sound and
No,
graphics?
it was
DS.
on 3DS. 3DS.
Yeah,
It
okay,
was
that's what
it was the same company that later did Metroid Dread, and I played the 3DS one. We'll get to it. I have some words with that one, but A.
You don't have to like it.
I don't.
I love it.
So I'm gonna again. You know what? Much like the first game, this one is very technically impressive for the Game Boy. Like they do a lot with the Game Boy. I'm always impressed with every great Game Boy game and what they squeeze out of those cartridges. And I'll give you the music is okay for the Game Boy, and the sprites look really good. Like you have a full size Samus filling the screen.
The sprite work on the Game Boy, you gotta say, is pretty damn. It's almost better than the Nintendo sprite work on there.
What threw me off of this game and I didn't like it. I've beaten it once and I'll never go through it again. I didn't like hunting the Metroids. I hated how it was a counter and you had to find them all. I just found that really tedious to a point and I didn't like it. I felt a lot of them were very much the same, right? There's different variations, mutations, but they're mostly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I got really bored of this one. I got really tired of it. So I don't know what to give it. I have to look this up.
So for my end, this is a game I didn't get to try till I was kind of older. Like I tried it a little bit at a friend's house who he absolutely loved it. I had a number of friends as a kid who loved this game. I have friends now who loved this game. And I've never been a huge fan of the way it plays, and that's just because of the Game Boy technical limitations. Like it's rough. I don't mind the counter, though I do think it's weird that there's only like 50 Metroids on SR388. Like they're kind of an apex species. How are there just a handful of them?
Yeah.
But
can't kill everything. Yes, I don't know.
But yeah, like I like the idea of where they went with it. It was cool that it was put on Game Boy for the second one. And did that one give you a map in the game?
I thought it did. I could have sworn that there was a map in that game, but it may not. It may be in a later installment. But I remember for some reason looking at it. Yeah, I think there is one because when I played it for Retro Achievements, I was like, I got to figure out how to get up to here and this, there, that. I swear.
No,
map,
it did
really?
not
No, it didn't.
feature maps.
What am I thinking? Okay, I don't know. Oh, you know what I was doing? I was looking at a map online. Never mind. Disregard.
But I mean,
disregard. I had a map, but it wasn't in the game, so never mind.
I will say mechanically, they improved on Metroid when they put it on Game Boy.
Yes.
Like that's pretty damn awesome. So while it's not a game that resonates with me, I do think it is deserving of a good grade.
I think it's crazy that they didn't release 2 on the Nintendo or something during that time. I always thought it was weird that it just fell on the Game Boy and then they just kind of left it there. It was almost like it almost went like over everybody's heads. the next one is obviously the third of the installment, but it was just like Samus or Return of Samus on the game.
I don't know if you remember,
is
but
that two?
like
which one is that?
Saturday morning cartoons and Disney afternoon were absolutely littered with commercials for this game when it was when it was released.
Really?
I remember.
Hey, the
Yeah.
marketing was huge.
I'll have to look. I'm sure if I saw the commercials, it would awaken that inside me, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah."
It had that like
Samus doing the screw
Nintendo
attack.
Power movie trailer voice, and it had I think it had 2D animated Samus running around shooting things, and
it's awesome.
Yeah, I just remember Captain N, the cartoon in the late '80s,
Love
and
that one,
how
yeah.
it had Mother Brain was in that. So that kind of stuck with me with the franchise.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a 5-year gap between Metroid and Metroid 2. That is a pretty wide gap, but we're gonna see that later on too. Like there is not a lot of love for this franchise in Nintendo. It's kind of strange.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna give this one a
2000s,
D.
yeah.
For me, I think a D.
no, it had like claymation in the commercial. That's what they
Claymation.
did, stop motion animation.
Wow.
Kind of like Final Fantasy 3.
3.
Next,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, yeah, great, good call. So I'm going to abstain from having a strong opinion on this one. I never really played all the way through it. If I remember correctly, and I like to think that I do, I borrowed a copy from my friend Brian when I was probably like early teens, and anytime you kind of like mess with the aspect ratio of my games, I don't like it. Same thing with Game Boy Mega Man games. They zoom in so much. I feel claustrophobic and I don't feel safe moving. And so I know I've started this one on the Game Boy, but I know I never really got further than maybe 20 minutes. And I'm sure I've seen people play it or some version of it, and I probably enjoyed watching, but I can't say I know enough to be like, well, here's where I come down. So I will go with like the standard middle of the road C and assume that is acceptable. Otherwise, just take me out of that one all in all. But I'm sure there's worse Metroid. Say again.
Yeah. I said I think my curve brings that up to a C, which I'm totally fine with.
Okay.
Sounds about right. Like I said, I don't
okay.
think I can accurately rank this one because it just didn't resonate with me. But I did play the crap out of AM2R. I beat that 100%ed it. So the concept was strong. I just never played through the original.
AM2R. That's what I keep thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
the whole Michigas. Yeah,
the fan game of Samus Returns that they wanted.
Yeah.
So, and then Nintendo finally did it in 2017. Took you long enough.
So Metroid 2 for the Game Boy, C. That seems fair. I can live with C. Yeah.
All right. Okay, here's the one that's probably going to get gushed about the most out of this. We're just going to, this is a hidden gem, as we like to call these kinds of games here in the Press B lore. We're going to talk about 1994 Super Metroid, arguably my favorite in the entire series. Can't say the same for everybody else, but you can't not rank this into a higher tier. This took everything from both the first two games and made it spanking amazing. This game was spectacular. Maps, tons of upgrades, places to visit, people to see. It brought back Ridley and Raid, whatever. There's a town.
His favorite bad guy, Gridley.
Clearly, you know this story well.
And when I drive through it, I would always think of this. But Ridley and Kraid and all those and a bunch of new guys and the guy melting in the lava.
Crocomire. That was awesome when that happened. It
exactly
just threw me for a loop.
Was the one that came back as a skeleton?
Yeah, and it's your first jump scare.
That was bad.
And you don't actually have to fight him, but they jump scare you. They completely throw it out of left field. Like you thought he was dead, and you start walking, and they give you that jump scare that you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And then you know you're in for something with this game.
It's from top to bottom. I've played this game religiously. I would love to get the badge for this one, but there are some things in there that are pretty difficult, like a 3 tank run or some BS, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm not that good.
But
you could save the animals at the end. The mother brain fight at the end is just reminiscent of the first one, and then kicks it up to fucking 11 when you get out there to fight the second half of that battle. Spoiler alert, sorry, but this game is fucking
It's 30 years
forever
old, buddy.
Yeah, get over it.
I mean,
This- yeah.
the way it pulls on you emotionally at the end of that game is wild.
Mhm.
The amount of
It's crazy.
they really did a great job, and I know I'm stepping on you here. I'm sorry.
No,
They
you're
did
good.
a great job in this game of really making you feel like you're on an alien planet, and things are unnerving. Like this is what the original Metroid was going for, and Super Metroid
Yeah.
nailed it because they
Yes.
got to do that with the music and the sound effects and the various, the different sprite styles from area to area, so that it really could convey a feeling and an emotion and make you uneasy as the player.
Right. The sequence breaking that you could do in this one, and the wall jumping to get past some things that you couldn't normally do. This is S tier Metroid, in my personal opinion. This would be the one that everything has to beat, in my personal opinion. I freaking love this game, and I just love the changes that they did to it. I love the speed running, the speed booster shoes, and all the stuff that you did with that. It just really, really, like you said, took what they started with the first two and just made it really good. So Super Metroid, to me, S tier, top tier, hard to beat. My favorite of the Metroid series. Can't get any better than that. Even the music, the squealing at the beginning of the title screen with the little Metroid in the tube, that was my ringtone for like 800 years. It also was my watch face until I
Yeah, I
changed
had
it
that
to
as
the Fallout thing. But I mean,
I had that as a
it's-
text notification for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
it's so good. It's so good, and the music is just fucking ba 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 ba. It's just so fucking good. It's really,
Sorry,
really
was that
good.
Superman?
The m-
That was
It's a little bit of
Well, the-
Superman.
John Williams.
There's
The
a little
music
Superman
in Super Metroid felt very cinematic.
Yeah.
It did.
For sure.
It did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially the ending battle with Mother
Mhm.
Brain. That whole sequence, especially when you get powered up the hyper beam, that whole
Ah.
sequence
Yeah.
will always stick in my brain as just epic music.
Yeah.
The scene, the giant Metroid baby like filling the screen. It was so huge. That was really, really good.
And then the self-destruct where you're running. I know they did that in the first one, but you literally felt panic when
Mhm.
you were jumping from platform to platform to get
Yeah.
out of there. It's stressful. It's great. There's so many emotions in this game that I love it. I love it to death.
I agree. This being S tier for the series. Further, if you take out Final Fantasy 4, I would put this probably in the top 3 best games for the Super Nintendo,
Yeah.
up there with Link to the Past and Final Fantasy 6.
Right.
But it accomplished so much. Wolf, I could not agree with you more with what you said about this. Feels like the perfect version of what one was trying to accomplish. Like, oh, this is what we meant to say. We just
Right,
didn't have
yeah.
the vocabulary
Yeah.
for it at the time. And just the inclusion of the upgrades, everything they were able to do with the map, and I mean, you talk about it being cinematic. If you look at a movie franchise, the first one to come into my mind is Rocky. Each Rocky movie kind of has its own feeling, and each world and each kind of sub-level of the game, Super Metroid, has its very own distinct taste and feeling and vibe. And what they accomplished, not just with the color palette, but the mapping and the design and the soundscapes. It's definitely S tier. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
this
also
is-
really made it feel like a living, breathing alien planet with all the different
Mhm.
types of creatures and
like
biomes and
like you're stepping on a tongue or a tonsil or something like that, or
Right.
okay, yeah. It
Like
was very
bio
Contra in that way, super safe. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I like this. This is my favorite Metroid, I think, especially from that era, just in terms of like the variety of the state, like the areas like you guys mentioned. Just atmospheric all around, right? Just the weather effects right from the get-go when your ship lands,
Yeah.
it's raining.
Fucking rain.
Right?
Yeah.
There's foggy areas, and then there's the
Yep.
heat areas where there's lava, and you have to have the right suit for it. Just atmospheric right from the get-go, right from the beginning. Intro is atmospheric. We're in the ship, basically, and you have to escape the ship after the fight with Ridley, and you're running for your life. And then you're right, at the very end of the game, you're running for your life again, and you could totally lose in the last 2 minutes. I've done it before. I fucked it
Yeah.
up trying to escape because I missed a jump. Just atmospheric all the way through. The only negatives I have on this game is wall jumping. I felt was really hard for me to grasp as a kid. I still have issues with it even today. It doesn't feel as clean as it could be. It's been done better in the later Metroid games. But just the fact that it has wall jumping is pretty unique, I think, for its time on the SNES. And I'm with you, GP. I struggle to pick my top 3 SNES games, but this is usually within that range, right? Like usually 3 or 4.
At least top 5,
For sure, top 5. Yeah, hands
easily
down.
Yes.
top 5.
Yeah.
An argument could be made for 3, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Top 3.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
For
other
me,
thing to point
they're
out too is that
probably-
sorry, real quick, is it has the horror elements that we see in later games in the series. They start with here, where there's the dark rooms and you have to use the light visor, the jump scares with Crocomire. I just think there's the horror elements where I didn't expect later on in the franchise, but going back to Super Metroid, they're always there from the beginning.
Yeah, like this franchise was heavily inspired by the Alien series of movies, and this is the one that really nailed that feeling.
Mhm.
And I mean, I loved the Alien. I probably saw the first 2 Alien movies way too young, but I saw
Same.
them and I loved
And
them.
Predator.
Like I was not 10 yet when I saw them. I absolutely loved them. And when I got to play Super Metroid, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. And there are 2 games on this list that qualify as S tier in my mind, and this is one of them.
Yeah, agreed.
Easily.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, yes, let's address real quick some of the obvious connections to the Alien franchise, which, by the way, I had a tougher time as a kid watching Land Before Time than I did
Same.
Alien or Aliens.
Oh, Land Before Time was so awful. I didn't understand why all my friends loved it.
No, it was terribly scary and sad.
Give me Alien or Godzilla. Land Before Time is so boring.
all the time Godzilla, yes. But I mean, yeah, Ridley Ripley, the whole mother
Okay.
which I might not have been till 3. I don't remember my Alien franchise super well sometimes. But no, I mean, yeah, strong female protagonist, just kicking ass and saving the day. Love it all.
Taking names.
Yeah.
And alien blood. All right. So I guess we're all in agreement that Super Metroid definitely needs a super rating of superiority and getting it that S tier where it belongs. So fantastic. The
Eating
Riz
that
keeps
ass.
on arisen. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
connect with our younger audiences. No cap. Let's go ahead and move on.
That's Skibidi Metroid. That's such a
Skibidi
banger.
Metroid.
No cap.
You
Go
take all
off.
the seats. All right. So, up next in the franchise, 2002, Metroid Fusion comes in hot. Which Game Boy was this? This was
Game Boy Advance.
Game Boy Advance. Thank you. So this, I've played very little of Metroid Fusion. I have played it, but not enough of it to give it like a good rousing. To me, this was one of the games that I'm with GP on the whole. I wouldn't say claustrophobic thing, but definitely the animation and like this, I guess the smoothness of the game, because it's pretty smooth when you're playing it, just felt very awkward to me playing it. It's
Okay.
I know Fusion gets a lot of love. It's not talked about as a bad game whatsoever. There's only one in this series that we'll talk about that gets kind of like bleh a lot, but Fusion's pretty high up there on a lot of Metroid fans lists. I can't give it. I'm going to abstain from giving it a decent rating or a rating of yes, less or no. So I'm giving it a C just because I don't know enough about it to hate it or enough about it to love it. But it does look cool. But for me, it's just very awkward to play on that system. I really need to play it on like the Steam Deck and just sit down and play it. That way I can give it an opinion. I've seen speedrunners play it and it seems pretty cool. I like the ricocheting rockets off of things that are metal when you're fighting, like, what is it, Mecha Ridley or whatever. Like some of that stuff's pretty cool in the animation. I just need more time with it to give it really a good vibe. Does anybody else have a better opinion about it than I do?
If it's okay to kind of change the order and go second, are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna start off by saying this. I'm gonna give it a B, which might be a little high, but the reason for it is you couldn't really do this today. I think this game came about. It was released so in tandem, and it was so intimately related to Metroid Prime. The overlap there was so intertwined that I think they created this because people liked having a mobile version of Metroid, but we didn't have the Switch. We didn't have Steam Decks. This was
Yeah.
so. That said, it accomplished what it wanted to, and it did it very well. And then being able to, if you've done X, Y, and Z in Fusion, then in Prime, you can get this suit, or vice versa if you've done certain things, yada yada yada. So that was all very cool. But that said, my favorite thing about Fusion is Metroid Prime. So I can't really justify putting it any higher than a B, and I feel like a B might be generous, but I think it's
Yeah.
deserving of a B or a B minus if we're getting into the weeds with it. But it was a fun and exciting thing. I played it right after I got completely addicted to Prime, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes.
Yes.
So I was riding high on the Metroid wave at that time. So that's my answer, and that's my reasoning. Courage.
This is the beginning of a cluster that we had of none that we have liked that we have never seen in Metroid during this time, where we were just getting pummeled. It was like a Smashing Pumpkins album. Every other month, we were just getting hit with a new Metroid variation of some kind. Billy Corgan took up the reins of the Metroid franchise, and we're just like, we're just gonna make all kinds of shit, just like he does with his music. So there's your Billy Corgan reference for the week, guys. Thank you. Next, whoever, keep going. I'm sorry, I
Wolf,
didn't
you
mean
want to talk? You want me to go?
I'll go.
Okay.
For me, I was super excited about Metroid Fusion. This was the first Metroid game we got for 8 years.
Mhm.
And it looked a lot like Super Metroid, which I already knew I loved. So I was like, I'm in. For me, the thing that threw this one a little bit was the way the story unfolded for the player, because they really wanted to do exposition dumps every little while. And so it was
Yeah.
like, now all of a sudden Samus is talking to her ship's AI or something. I
It's the
don't
computer
remember
system of the
exactly what
station
it
or some
was.
nonsense. Yeah.
It might have been that. I thought
Yeah.
it was her ship's AI, but I guess it might have been the computer system on the station. But you're on this like zoo space station. I can say words.
Zoo Station. There's a U2 reference. Let's go.
And you're running around trying to kill the X virus, I think it was called. And this is basically the Metroid's only natural predator, right? And so you're running around. That they've apparently got a Metroid on the ship, or supposedly, or they were experimenting with it to try and do away with Metroids. I don't remember exactly what it was, but both of these are species that are just supremely invasive. And so either way, you take one off of their home planet, and everybody else is fucked. But this is the
Intergalactic
one
murder
where
hornets.
you end up fighting like a scary version of Samus in this. This is the first time that you have to fight yourself, and it's scary and more powerful. Like it's.
Wouldn't that be the last time?
I want to mention the kind of things I'm jumping quite ahead here, but with Metroid Dread, those robots that chase you around and you can't really stop them. There are points in Metroid Fusion. Yeah, I think that's what they were. There are points in Metroid Fusion where you have to deal with that Dark Samus or that X Samus, whatever it was called. Sax, that's what it was. And you cannot let it interact with you or you're dead. Like you have to sneak around at points. So this was kind of the start of sneak around, a little bit of stealth in Metroid. And that was pretty cool to me. However, the way the story unfolded and some of the mechanics and boss fights were just frustrating more than anything. So I can't give this anything more than a B. Like I think it was good. It was a nice run back to Metroid, but it wasn't the strongest 2D Metroid. So I think it's about even with the original Metroid on that front.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wolf. I think the biggest problem I have with this game, and I'll be fair, I have not beaten this game. I fell off it the few times I've tried to play it. I've tried 3 times to try and sit through this game, and the biggest barrier is that stupid AI/computer of the station and how it talks so much. Like when I go back and play Super Metroid, it's like the perfect game. It's timeless. It still holds up. I don't need dialogue. I mean, the intro is good enough. From there, it doesn't matter. Just playing the game and being immersed in that world is the story enough for me. And that Nintendo does that a lot, like we've seen with like Zeldas and stuff, where they don't need a lot of that exposition. They don't need that story when the story is the game itself. But Metroid really tries to shove it down your throat. And as interesting as some of the Metroid lore can be, it just felt a little bit weird with this, with the X virus and the computer talking all the time. I also didn't like how I felt more stuck on a rail with this game. Super Metroid, I mean, yes, you could, I mean, forget the sequence breaking. I know you can totally do that. But I still feel like more wide open spaces to explore, whereas Metroid Fusion felt a lot more smaller, which made sense because you're on a station, but it didn't feel like you had as much freedom to go your own way in that one. So for me, not the greatest. Graphics are amazing. Totally showcases what the Game Boy Advance can do. It definitely takes the SNES 16-bit style sprites and goes with it. The animations are much more detailed. I didn't care for the suit you end up with, that stupid cyan blue and yellow.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. I get why they do it. She's now an alien now. It's fine. But the story was weird. Metroid story has always been strange, but it was a bit too weird for me. I mean, I think I lean towards C, but I can live with a B for this one.
I think they pivot the story on Fusion in a really weird way. It's like trying to introduce something new because it's like, oh, we know we've done this the last 3 years. It's kind of old. Let's try something different. But it just felt like it was way out there, like just too far, bridge too far. You know what I mean?
They were also taking a big swing with Prime, which is just coming out at that same time, and changing that to an FPS game. I think they really said, well, the fans are going to want, something closer to Super Metroid. So they came out with something that was a little more true to form for what we knew to kind of ease us in to the murky waters of first-person shooter, just in case it did not take off like it did.
All right. Well,
okay. I did not
unless we have
realize these
anything
came
else
out on the same day.
did they come out the same day? Oh, I didn't know that.
Apparently.
Well,
Totally cross-marketing for sure. Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. Well, without further ado, since we've already dropped to talk about it, and it came out the same exact day that Fusion did, let's go ahead and switch gears and switch our perspectives and jump over to Metroid Prime, as we have given Metroid Fusion a resounding B ranking for that one. All right. So Metroid Prime. Let's talk a little bit about Metroid Prime. I'll go ahead and start us off. Metroid Prime was such a great, it's a great perspective break. It was Metroid, but it was first person. You're seeing the arm cannon, the things that they did with this game, and this was one of the first things I met Wolf doing, was playing Metroid Prime, and what he did in this game, which
I always forget about that. You're always the one to remind me what I did with that,
because it's such a cool idea. When Wolf streamed back in the day, he had some really, really cool aspects that he did with his stream that went with, like when he played Spider-Man, he was upside down. He dressed like Princess Daisy for
Mario 2.
What was it? Ghouls and Ghosts? Was it Ghouls and Ghosts that you were doing that?
Oh no, I did it for doing Mario 2 as just like Princess Peach that day.
He was a pioneer with heart rate monitors.
After I beat that, I went on to Ghouls and just Ghouls and Ghosts, or Ghosts and Goblins for NES.
Give me the key, Give me the key, you piece of garbage. One of my all-time favorite Wolf lines.
That was my ringtone for the longest time.
Anyways, as we steer back to the Metroid rails that we just went off of, Metroid Prime was a great adjustment. It was a different perspective. You were seeing through Samus's eyes. You were tackling the same kind of Metroidvanian platforming, but through her eyes, as opposed to the side scroller that we've all grown on and loved. I think what they did with it was great. They did very cool details, which is what Wolf did. There was every time there was an explosion of light anywhere near you, like a missile blew up or something, you would see Samus's eyes reflected back in her helmet and her face, like usually mostly her nose and her eyes, because the face mask was over that. And Wolf streamed this, he put his face over that, but it was the opaque, I guess, or whatever makes you transparent. The transparency.
And
there
so
it is,
when the game got brighter, you'd see me
you'd see him. It was a really cool thing that he did, and I loved it. But I thought Metroid Prime was freaking awesome. I loved that game, and it felt more anxiety ridden when things were attacking you face on, as opposed to running from something sideways. Now you've got a Metroid on your ass, literally sucking. You see the inside of this thing sucking the life out of you, and it was a trip.
Face
This
hugger.
game, it was just it's great from front to back. I love Metroid Prime. I'd be willing to give it an S tier because they totally pivoted on this thing and took you away from your normal side-scrolling platforming and put you in literally in the driver's seat of the character, and they still kept you doing the same exact stuff. You were just witnessing it firsthand as opposed to side to side. I thought that was a really cool change. A great change for the franchise. 100%. I'm going Prime with an S tier ranking on this because Prime is sick. I put down I'm off my soapbox.
For me, like this was rad. Like I was so excited to play through this. I've never been a huge first person shooter guy, so I was hesitant about that, but playing it, like this took what happened with Super Metroid and dug it in even further, because now you have to be spatially aware of everything around you. You have to manage light sources because the game has that. You're sneaking around trying not to get caught sometimes. There's so much going on. You can't see everything, and that is an issue. And I mean, sometimes, and I don't mean that in a negative way, like it's not an issue for the mechanics. It's an issue. Like you have to deal with that constantly.
Right.
So like trying to make you feel like that lone bounty hunter fighting for your life, they dug it in even further here, and that was amazing to me.
Even the morph ball, like with the light coming out of the middle of the morph ball when you're rolling, I just little aspects, little details like that. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah, I absolutely love this game. This is probably my other S tier game on this list.
With you.
Interesting.
Jake is not amused.
GP, let me go because I don't want to end this one on a bad note. This game sucks. I'm sorry.
Wow.
First off, the one thing I'm going to say, there is positives though I have of this game. Graphically, I cannot deny how amazing this game looks. Like just graphically, it's amazing. The visor effects, the lighting is awesome. It's definitely immersive. I'm going to give it that. But it's immersive to the point where I don't like it, is my take on it. At this point, when Metroid Prime came out, I had a chance to play Too Real. I had a chance to play, Quake 3 and all that kind of gameplay, first-person shooters. So in my head, a first-person shooter was played a certain way, right? Much more responsive movement of the shots, much more better field of view when you can see things, faster paced action. This game, though, is not a fast-paced game. It's slower and methodical. It kind of reminds me of why I don't like Halo, if that makes sense, right? You feel like Samus and that you're heavy, bulky armor and you move like that. I mean, there's other stuff to it too, but I didn't like how slow the gameplay felt. While the exploring was interesting, and I liked, shooting the bubble doors in a 3D environment was neat, but I felt there's too much of an emphasis on scanning everything. I really didn't like scanning in this game. It kind of just
scanning.
It didn't feel as actiony as the original games, right? I really loved the 2D platforming and the 2D gameplay, but when you translate it to the first person view, it just felt weird to me. I never could dig with it. Music fantastic, visually stunning. Like when you're wet, the water comes down the visor. Like you rarely see that. That was really awesome. But I just bounced so hard off this game, and I have tried several times to get back into it, and I can't. So I'm not gonna letter rank it. I think I would agree with you guys being S, even though I can't stand this one. But I know how many people love and adore this game and how groundbreaking it is for the franchise. I mean, hell, I'm even excited for Metroid Prime 4, even though I know I'm not going to play it because I don't like the franchise. But it's I just can't get into this one. It's just not a Metroid for me, I guess.
Jake, you ignorant
It's not a
slut.
completionist.
Keith.
Sorry, it's bad.
So this came out my freshman year of college, and my roommate bought this game, James, and he got addicted to it. And then kid down the hallway, Joel, got addicted to it. And I'm watching them, and they're like, "You've got to play this." And I'm like, "No, I'm a freshman in college. I have things on my plate, and I don't have the bandwidth in my brain to do this. This is a giant game. And long story short, I had the bandwidth if I just got rid of all my classes.
I've found the
So I didn't sleep much unless I was in class. Anyway, this is a game that I got addicted to, and I loved it. And sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Just when I thought, okay, I've beaten it, I've completed everything 100%, gotten all the endings, I thought I was done. This is when I discovered sequence breaking, and then it was like I restarted everything, and I got good at the strafing and all these things. I'm sorry I'm blurry because I'm moving around so much, but I really fell hard for this game when it came out on the GameCube. That said, I lean toward a high A if we're just looking at the initial release of it. Every time they've released a new version, they've changed it so you can't do the sequence breaking, which pisses me off. To me, it's much cooler if the devs put it in there and they're like, yeah, if they figure it out, great. But if you get pissed off and you want to change the code because you don't like that people are, figuring out your flaws, I mean, eat a fat one. You know what I mean? Now, when they came out with the Prime trilogy and incorporated the Wii controls, I was skeptical because I loved the original version so much. But the way it translated was so awesome and so well done. And what it made me truly appreciate is, okay, if you go back to like the old fighters, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, throwing the ice, from Sub-Zero, or doing the Hadouken, the down forward motions and low punch, and the timing of all that and how you have to choreograph and get the muscle memory. I realized after like a week of playing Metroid Prime on the Wii that that's exactly how your brain works, even on a macro scale with, the nunchucks and shit like that. I was so impressed in hindsight once I figured out, like, oh my God, I had to rewire some shit to get this done. But it played smooth and people speed run it. And it really is something that you can just do to your level of comfort, how much you want to be involved in it. You can complete it. You can be a speed runner. You can just play it casually. Either way, whatever you do, it is fucking great and it is fun. So if we're looking at just the original release on the GameCube, I would give it a A or a high A. But if we're looking at it in, with the Wii version included, absolutely S tier, up there for me with Super Metroid. So I'm going to say S. Thank you for listening to all of that. I know that was a lot. That will be my longest spiel tonight. But yeah,
until we get to Metroid Prime trilogy.
Well, okay, yeah, I kind of buried the lead on that one. Stick around, everybody. We'll
Stick around.
Yeah,
we still got good stuff.
Yeah.
That's interesting though, GP, that you would, if you were consider this game as a standalone, that it would be an A for you, but with the other versions being an S. That is interesting because this has been re-released a couple times now, so that's interesting.
Well, I've started having conversations with cousins and friends about that, with like all the different Final Fantasy versions, like with the Pixel remaster. Of 4. You guys know how much I love Final Fantasy 4, but to play the Pixel remaster, it's cool, but it's not the best version out there because, I mean, even if you look at like the Game Boy Advance versions with like the bonus dungeons, aggregate, 4 is still my favorite game of all time, but just standard 4, like, maybe it's not top 3 for the Super Nintendo. Maybe it's a 5 or even a top 10.
Right.
Things like that. That's how I'm thinking.
GP and I are going to sit down one of these days and coffee talk about our opinions about Final Fantasy and the Pixel remasters. We've been trying to schedule a time to sit down and actually do it.
Yeah.
So we're going to have some good stuff to really dive into because he and I have some very good opinions about how we feel about those guys. So, but we'll veer into that lane because I'm trying to stop myself from going off on a tangent because I fucking will. And it has nothing to do when we're talking about us.
Yeah, same. I got to reel it in.
Steer the car back out of the thing. All right. So S tier for Metroid Prime. I think that's a resounding yes all around. Even if Jake,
even from somebody who doesn't like taste. I can't deny you guys. Yes.
Also, sorry.
Makes sense.
One last thing I do have to say about Prime. Early on, one of my friends back in 2002 complained that they changed too many things, and I thought he meant the aspect ratio or the first personness of it. He didn't like that they took out the flipping. I forget what it's called, like the charge jump.
The screw attack.
The screw attack. Yeah, I'm like, can you imagine how vomit-inducing that would be to see that first person? Also, I'm pissed off that the original version came out in 2002 because that from 1987 is 15 years after the original Metroid came out, and that's 17 years ago from now, or whatever the fuck. So we are now further along from, Prime's release. Like Metroid
Right.
came out closer to Prime than we are today. So
Yeah.
I hate that. Anyway, thank you.
I need a Metroid Prime VR mod with the screw attack.
You shut the fuck up. Nobody will hear from me ever again. I mentioned Contra earlier. If they had done a first-person shooter in the Contra world like they did for Metroid Prime, it's the same thing. If they handled it that way, just to be immersed in that world and look around and see all that shit and hear the music, oh my god,
Right?
Yeah,
That'd be sick.
yeah.
I think
I'd still
hey,
be
Nintendo,
streaming.
you may try to shut us down, but we're giving you some gold fucking nuggets right here. So
Oh man, yes, do it. Okay,
Speaking
thank
of gold nuggets, I'm going to move on to 2004, where we're looking down the barrel of two more Metroids. Were they released on the same day? I wouldn't be surprised if they were. But we're looking at Zero Mission and Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. But we'll start with Zero Mission first and get our debate about that one. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Zero Mission is a I wouldn't say half-assed. Half-assed is a bad way to use it. Hold on.
No,
Don't you besmirch this game, sir.
Hold on. I'm not besmirching. What I'm trying to understand, was this not some sort of not twisted. What's the best way to put it where it's not negative? Was this a remake of the first one?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. It was like, but it's not totally like it's not.
Okay.
It's got its own story, but it's a remake of the first one.
Reimagining of the first.
Okay,
game.
Sure.
Thank you. That's
Yes.
what I was trying to go for. The reimagining. All right. As you could tell, I don't play a lot of this game.
Yeah.
So that's how we premise this. I give it a C, but if it's anything like a reimagined version of the first one, I need to sit my ass down and play it because I've heard good things about it.
It has a map.
It has a map,
Yeah.
so Jake must love it. He's going to S tier this one because it has a map on it.
All right. Jake, do you mind if I try to convert Chard here?
Yeah, go for it. Then I'll talk because this game is.
Here's
so
the
good.
thing: there's not much conversion. It's kind of like if I were religious and I was like sitting in a church and you were like, "Hey, you want to believe in God?" I'm like, "Well, I'm here. I'm listening." Like, there's not
Well,
much
look,
to
sit your
convert.
ass down and eat this wafer and drink this wine because Wolf's going to break down why this game is fucking fantastic.
Let's go.
Please, Wolf.
All right.
I'm all ears. I'm all ears.
Okay.
Wololo.
Now,
Don't you
Metroid
say
Zero
in church?
Mission. Okay, so no, I'm converting him. Age of
And
Empires.
also with you.
Yeah. Okay, so they did not come out the same day for these two. It was February and November of 2004. Metroid Zero Mission. Now, this was a great follow-up to what Super Metroid did and what Fusion tried to do.
Yeah.
They brought back the original Metroid, but they did it like Super Metroid. And yeah, this game also had dialogue, but it wasn't super dialogue heavy like Metroid Fusion was. And honestly, a lot of it was sort of Samus's interior monologue, just thinking about what's going on. So it was giving thoughts to the character as she's experiencing what she's experiencing. Seeing as, Metroid was very thin on plot originally, they tried to work some in and they did an amazing job. And they even added like a huge section of the game that explained some things that were in Super Metroid that didn't really make the most sense. Like the ghost ship. You find out why the ghost ship is there in Metroid Zero Mission.
Oh, okay.
That's really
Okay.
cool. You
So-
play through a chunk of this game without the suit because your suit is destroyed and taken from you.
Let me interrupt real quick. So it's a reimagining of the first one, but it takes place after Super Metroid?
No,
No, before.
it was
Okay.
just released
Alright.
10 years after Super Metroid.
Oh, okay.
But it's if you
Does the story,
like,
does the lore match up with Super Metroid in some?
Yes.
I think
Is it like a
canonically,
precursor?
yes,
Yeah.
canonically,
Okay.
this is the official story of Metroid.
Gotcha.
So if you go back and play this, you're getting the full plot of what happened with Metroid
Okay.
before Metroid 2, before Super Metroid. This leads up to all that.
Cool. Okay.
And so you get to see why Ridley and Samus have sort of this rivalry that they have where there's like
Beef.
true hatred for each other rather than you're in my way, I'm going to kill you.
Mhm.
Like they actually have animosity toward each other that you kind of see throughout the franchise. This explains it.
Nice. Okay.
And then this also gives you that same sort of horror feeling that Super Metroid gave you because you, like I said, you have your suit taken away. Now you're very weak. You don't have your powerful charge shot. I don't think you have much of anything. Like you have like a stun gun
You have
or
a pea
something.
shooter of a gun. You
Really
have like a
weak. Yeah.
zapper, and that's it. And it's not
It's
that
a lot
great.
of sneaking. I think I've seen some people
Yes.
speedrun this. and
Not
there's
a
lot
not
of
a
like,
lot, but there is a chunk.
Mhm.
And you know, you're doing it through the enemy ship. So like you've got all that. So it's the full original game with a mini map where the areas actually look different from each other. And they added new mechanics and new story and new areas. And like this game really did well. Like
Okay.
I played through this game like twice in a row when it came out.
Well, now I know what to play after the podcast's done.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is the if I want to play the beginning of a franchise, this is the one I recommend people to play is Zero Mission. I think you can skip the original NES one unless you're a real fan of the NES, and I do love the NES. If you're new to the franchise, you have to start with Zero Mission instead. Otherwise, I think you're going to bounce off it. If you start with the NES one, the controls are better than Super Metroid, right? Like I like Super Metroid a lot, but it's a bit clunky with the angle shooting and the wall jumping. All of those issues I had in Super Metroid are gone in Zero Mission. I really like how, yes, there is a map, but I like how, much like Super Metroid, it is more wide open in how you tackle where you're going to places. But what was neat from Fusion was where it would kind of tell you where to go next on a map, but you felt confined to a path, a rail. But in Zero Mission, yes, you get the Chozo statue. It tells you where on the map to go, but it doesn't give you the map for you. You have to kind of still explore your way there. So you have a general, like a compass direction where to go, but it doesn't
Mhm.
hold you by the hand as much. So you kind of get the
Okay.
best of both worlds. You get the exploration, you get the way you tackle things on your own. You're exploring, but you're not being held by a computer's hand the entire way. So that was
The
really
Messenger
interesting.
did that exact same thing, which is very,
Yes.
very cool. And that reminded me quite a bit of how they handled that. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
just like a compass direction. And I really appreciate that. I think this is a great way to get into the franchise. Sprite work is awesome. It's fantastic. Zero Suit Samus at the end is fantastically as well. The bosses are memorable. They definitely took a lot of stuff I loved in Super Metroid, but then bringing that flavor of the original back was really well done. It's just such a great game. Music is banger. Front to end, like there's enough plot, like you said, Wolf. There's a little bit of dialogue, but it doesn't. I couldn't tell you what it is. All I remember is the gameplay and the atmosphere. Much like Super Metroid has the atmosphere telling the story, I feel like I still have that with Zero Mission. This is one of my favorite games in the Game Boy Advance. I think this is one that I could keep, the cart plugged into the Game Boy the entire time and be happy. Like if I was on a desert island, this is the Metroid I would probably take. I like it that much. Just everything, graphics, music, gameplay is so solid and tight. I love it. Everything about Metroid I love is in Zero Mission. I think this is, for me, this would be an S tier game.
Okay. I'm going to throw an A on this one. If you have nostalgia for Metroid, yes, always go back and play the NES. But similar to what Jake and I think to an extent Wolf's saying, but don't let me misquote you if I'm misremembering. If you're just now kind of coming into the Metroid universe, with Dread or any of that kind of thing, and you want to go back and see kind of what the earlier stages were like, this would be the version you'd want to play. I think if you didn't grow up or have a lot of experience with the NES, that version is not going to be for you. But this one, Zero Mission, very much will be, and give you a good idea of what the where it all started. So yeah, I don't have a ton to say. I would put an A on it as well, especially if we gave the original Metroid a B. I think that's fair and accurate, and I'll stick with that.
Okay. I'm converted. I'm gonna fire this thing up on the old Steam Deck and give it a little bit of run. I know Jake has talked about this a lot in previous discussions that we've had about any kind of Super Nintendo game or Game Boy game or anything that we've had in the past. He talks very, very highly about Zero Mission, and I didn't realize it was a retelling or a similar version of the first one. Had I known that, I might have actually jumped in to this game a lot sooner, because I always hear mixed messages between Fusion and Other M and
Yeah.
Zero Mission.
Well-
And I get them all mixed up, like which ones you should spend the time on, which one you should, blah blah blah. And now that I understand that Zero Mission is aces, I will be making my way around to that franchise for sure.
It's Metroid 1 with, you know, Super Metroid sensibilities, but 10 years of experience on top of that. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot going for it.
It's a shame they put these like I say it's a shame because it's handheld, but it feels like these games could be, it's so much better to play them on a bigger scale, right? Like now that we get to play it with emulation, we can use our big screen TVs and our computers and stuff. So you can really get that big feel. Because that's what I liked about Super Metroid was it was so big and it was big on your TV at the same time.
Mhm.
The rest of the Metroids that were released that weren't Prime were always, the 2D side scrollers were always on the DS or the 3DS or something
the
where you
handheld,
didn't get, or the advanced, like it's on the handheld. So it's not as, it doesn't, it's so silly. It's my thing. It doesn't feel as epic because it's in your hands, not in your living room.
no,
if that makes sense.
I completely understand that. That was an issue I had with the Castlevania franchise for a while. Like all the 2D
Yeah.
entries were on handheld, and I was like, come on, I want to
Right.
play these on a big screen, not a 3-inch. Like
Exactly. These are epic
Let me
games, and you're
see these
making me play
beautiful
It's a
them.
Game Boy. Come on,
Yeah.
guys. Game
But
Boy.
Lame.
nowadays with modern, I mean, you can take your Steam Deck and plug it into your TV, or you can put it,
Yeah.
you can play these now
Mhm.
on a big screen, and they totally hold up. Like the Game Boy Advance's
It's-
sprite work is just as good as a SNES, right? Hands down, it's better in a lot of ways.
well, I think it's funny because I say I was
DS.
yeah, I just complained about having to play all the like a bunch of Castlevanias on a handheld. And then I played through almost the entirety of Bloodstained on my Steam Deck. So I mean,
Yeah.
but the screen is way bigger than a GBA.
Yeah,
SP,
the screens
so-
are
Right.
much different than they used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I digress
this-
because we are.
Is this S
we
or
are at
A
an hour.
then? Do you guys want to do S?
I
or you
would
want to
not
do
be
A?
opposed. I would not be
an A.
opposed to this getting an S. But
Let's put it on there. I like it.
You
Yeah.
guys have nothing but positive things to say about it. I'm with it. I'll give it an S tier.
Yeah,
Okay.
my only conviction is that it's not a B. A is
Yeah.
fine. S is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So S
All
tier.
right. Next up, a few months later release or a few months earlier release. I think it's later. The sequel to Metroid Prime, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, which I
It is a C.
believe
It's a
introduced.
solid C.
Yeah.
Solid C. Echoes. Wow.
We don't have to dwell on the C too much.
We're just
It's a
gonna
C.
rush. We're gonna rush this one. This introduced
I
Dark Samus to the Prime series, if I'm not mistaken. This was the last of the Prime series that I played. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't think I finished it.
Oh, you got to play
Um,
Corruption.
But it's more
Is
of the
this-
same, right? It's
Is
more
this
of the
light
same
and dark
first
one
person doing his
with the
thing.
two colors
I
of
think
beams?
so.
Yeah.
I thought that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That sounds.
And the one
very
with like you're on the light and dark versions of the planet, stuff like that.
The Aether
Like,
version, yeah, all that stuff.
yeah, dark Aether and light Aether, and it was a weird one. It had some cool ideas, but it was kind of stale compared to the original. Like it a lot of mechanics overstayed their welcome in this one.
Yeah.
So it's a
I'm
C.
willing to give it. I didn't finish it. I'm willing to give it a B minus. Because I mean it's Prime. It's more the same kind of stuff. I like the light and dark aspect of the game. I think that's a cool shift in things. But I like weird shit like that. So I'm cool with giving that guy a B.
Yeah. The little I played of this one chart, I didn't care for the light and dark mechanics very much, and I think I kind of also felt it was a bit stale. But I'm not really into these games either, so I'll lean on what you guys are saying. But I would be fine with a C or B. I think maybe more C.
Yeah, whatever GP kind of puts the nail on, I'll probably go with
He
that.
can
Yeah.
guide us which
Well,
way.
again, I side with Wolf on this one. And the reason for the C is actually kind of unique. I don't know a lot about the development history of Primes 2 and 3. So at one point, it feels like maybe they wrote these in tandem and said we have to break this into two separate games.
It did feel like that. Yeah.
But then part of me also thinks, okay, were they going for kind of like the Empire Strikes Back sort of thing? Because 2 is definitely not, though. I'm sorry. I'm in my feelings about it. 2 is not near as good as 1. And I'm going to give it a C. An argument might be made for a B, but I think it has to be a C because of the virtues of Prime 3, which really,
okay.
I think,
Okay.
not undid some of the wrongs from the second one, but they took note of what the shortcomings were and said, okay, well, story-wise, we can clean this up quite a bit and make this a more enjoyable experience than 2. So 2 and 3, I put together because one is not great, the other is pretty solid. So I think, and this will go into the next one, With Prime 3, I'm going to give that a B, but for that reason, this one has to get a C. Prime 2.
Fair.
So that's me.
I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. All right.
All right.
Here we go. Metroid Prime. Now, this is a classic. I know everybody on this podcast has definitely at least played, if not badged this one on Retro
Oh my
Achievements.
God.
Metroid Prime Pinball. I have nothing. I have
Way too
nothing
much
to
plot.
contribute.
It is very plot heavy.
There's a lot of dialogue.
Yes.
A lot of dialogue.
And a lot of bing bong booing, just bing bong boom.
Can I make a couple quick points?
Please do.
Go ahead.
We're the only
I
one who
only
will.
played the demo of this at Best Buy, and it was fine. But
Yeah.
I'm not a huge pinball player.
No.
However, it's kind of hard to go wrong with a pinball game. So I'm sure the game is decent. I'm going to say it's probably like a B.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
What's it
pinball.
on? What system was it on?
DS.
DS.
So, and
It
it
is on
took
DS,
advantage of
okay.
both the screens, and so that was the
Yeah.
novelty. It was the full playing field. It's a pinball
Okay.
game, and it's actually a good pinball game, and it just happens to coincidentally be Metroid themed, which it's cute. It makes sense because the big power up in the Metroid series, you turn to a little ball. Why wouldn't you have a pinball game about Metroid? What I find with a lot of pinball games on handhelds is they usually shaft you with like 1 or 2 stages, and it feels like a ripoff. This doesn't have that problem. I think there's 5 environments in this game, and
Oh, wow.
it's solid graphics. Music is decent. It's a solid physics. It's
No
a solid
Sonic
pinball game.
Spinball, but it's up there.
Well, so few games are.
Yeah.
Honestly, is this S tier? No, of course not. Is it a good Metroid game? No, because it's a pinball game. But I think it's worth a B in terms of it's not a bad game. It's just a good
Okay.
game. It's just
Alright.
a pinball one. It's less Metroid, more pinball. So I think B myself.
I like the part of the game where you launch the ball and then try to not let it go down to the bottom part of the screen using the flippers.
That's a solid
Um,
strategy.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's a broken game if you look into Game Shark. I fucking no. Whatever grade letter is the most, I don't give a shit. That's what I'm
B.
voting. I have nothing bad to say about it. I don't want it to come off that way. I'm not huge
it a B.
into video game pinball, but only because I like actual pinball so much. I like the theming of Metroid, so that's a positive. Pinball is very unoffensive in any setting, so I have no strong opinions on this one. So there we go.
All right.
So
I give it a B. Fine. You
Okay.
swayed me to a B.
Who's
Sure,
your
why
friend who
not?
likes to play? Bing bong, bing bong.
Bing,
Bing
bong,
bong.
booey.
Okay. 2006. Metroid Prime Hunters.
Oh, I
Who's
forgot
played
about
I have-
Hunters.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
played this one.
I also
I know nothing.
played. I played the demo of this at the store too. Oh,
Was it Best
so
Buy?
bad. This is like, as far as Metroid goes, this is
Electronic
F.
Boutique.
And it was Best
F.
Buy, yes. This is F.
Wow.
It's not Federation Force. This is Hunters. You didn't like Hunters?
Oh, Hunters. Which one? That was okay.
So-
Federation Force is F. This is probably a D.
Yeah.
This one was still not good either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sound
Equally
like
shit.
me.
Yeah, give it the D.
Hunters is mostly there is a multiplayer
Give
mode
it
in
the
it,
D.
but it's a single player game and it's first person view, much like Metroid Prime, but it's on the fucking DS, which
Ooh.
technically that is a marvel. Whenever I see 3D on the DS, I'm always amazed. I know it's better than an Advance, but still, I've not played it, but what I've seen of it, it looked okay. I don't know if I'd want to play a first person shooting game on the Nintendo DS though. Personally, especially when it's like one screen is gameplay and one screen I think it was HUD, if I remember right.
Is your stylus?
Yeah, and the stylus, I hate the stylus, but anyway,
Just very
Yeah.
Cyclops view.
I'd agree with a D.
It's a D.
But it's
My
important to
Hunters.
play this though because Metroid Prime 4 pulls characters from Hunters. They're going deep
it's
with
not a
with
good
the
one.
Oh,
lore
my
on
goodness.
4. So I would play
Looks like
Hunters
I'll
if
be
you're interested in
long
the
playing
franchise.
that one.
Yeah,
If you
honestly.
gave me a list of Metroid video game titles and said which one of these was not an actual game, I would have been like, yeah, I don't remember Hunters. We'll go with that one.
It's like Mega Man
It's
Maverick
multi-game.
Hunters is what that reminds me of.
No, Maverick
Maybe
Hunters
it's-
was good though.
Was it?
Yeah, I liked it.
disagree. I didn't care for
On
that.
the PSP,
Was it on
put
the
the
PSP?
capsules in. Yeah, putting the capsules
No,
in
I
different
thought it
places.
was
and you could
on.
play
No,
as Vile.
Jake's got the face. I thought it was on like Game Boy Color or some shit.
DS?
That was on
No.
the PSP.
No, Maverick Hunters. Yeah, it may be PSP. Yeah, I
Maverick
wanted to
Hunters
try that
was
one.
Maverick Hunter. Yeah, Maverick Hunter X or something. That was PSP.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. We can rank Mega Man games next time.
I
Yeah,
will
we'll do that later.
stand correct. I will sit corrected. All
Okay,
right.
so
Bring
D?
more of that
D?
Riz.
D tier.
Okay.
We'll give it the
Yeah.
Give me
D.
the ping pong, or not ping pong. Give me the pinball.
I take pinball over Hunters. Noted.
Yeah.
All right, GP, you probably have the most to talk about this because I have already claimed to have not been able to play this one because I don't know why. I know it came out on the Wii. I had a Wii. I think I bought it, but during that time there was a lot of tumultuous life going on, and the turmoil did not allow me to get a good run at Metroid Prime 3, which makes me sad. So please tell. We're not talking about Federation Force 11. It's already ranked. We still got
Focus.
like 5 games in between in there, but we already
They're
ranked.
fine. They're quick.
Metroid-
Corruption.
Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, go.
Yeah. I kind of already said a lot of what I wanted to say about it. I mean, by virtue of 2, I'm going to give this one a B. I think it was a correction of the ship after 2, and I liked it. I didn't love it, but it was still fun, and the controls I still enjoyed. The Dark Samus thing, kind of from we talked about earlier, was back, and they did it, I thought, in a fun way, and yeah, I don't think I would have liked it if I didn't have the player's guide. That is one thing I will say, is typically I don't like to play through a game for the first time with the player's guide. I usually wait to beat it and then go back and do the player's guide. But I wasn't captivated enough or something. I knew I wanted to finish it, but I used the player's guide and never really felt good about it. But there we are. To me, it's a B. It's fun. It's not great, but it's better than 2 was.
See, I would say this was an A. This is the first one that brought in the Wii remote controls. It did them great. This one, like you said, righted the ship from Echoes, and again brought in the Dark Samus stuff in a fun way. It took you to multiple planets, so you get to see all these different alien planets and places. And the story behind it, if you do all the scanning, because that's where the lore is, much like items in Elden Ring. There's a lot of plot buried in there that gives you insights as to where Mother Brain originally came from. And it kind of goes deep into how this world functions. So why is there a Mother Brain? Well, it's an AI. It's a biological AI that mankind has created to, man all sorts of different things. And so that's how Mother Brain came to be. Like, it explores a lot of that, explains a lot of that. And I thought the game was really well done. So for me, it's an A.
Yeah, I'm not going to hate on an A. Shit, maybe I just need to go back and play it again. It's been however long, 14, 15 years probably since whenever it came out on the trilogy version for the Wii is when I first played it. But yeah, if you guys both agree on an A, I'm fine with it. So
for me on this one, I think the move to a Wii was a good one. The graphics look really good for what it is. I think for me in the Wii, I love that system, but a lot of the games graphically were not that impressive. Metroid Prime 3 was one of those games that was actually pretty impressive for the system. As much as I don't care for the Wii's controller setup, it worked for Prime 3 in a way I didn't expect. It was a bit of a novelty, but it still worked, and I thought that was pretty solid. I think I would lean toward an A on this one as well. I think this was a solid entry for the franchise. I think the 5-year gap between this and 2, the first one, they've definitely learned things. And the music was good. Graphics, graphically impressive enough that I think it's an A for me personally.
okay.
Sold. Absolutely sold.
Okay.
So how do we rank this next one?
It's weird because
so I was
2
just
years
thinking
afterwards,
about that and doing some math in my head. Basically, the easiest way to think is if you average the 3 out, they kind of fall into an A, but then you give Metroid Prime 1 and 2 the Wii remote controls, and it definitely edges them into the A. So there you go.
Okay, that's fair. So next was the release 2 years later of the Metroid Prime trilogy on Wii. So all 3 of them came off of the GameCube and were deposited sweetly, caressingly onto the Wii remote, and we got to use the novelty of the Wii remote. I unfortunately only played the GameCube styles, and I think I might have briefly touched on, because I do remember using the Wii remote on 3, but it wasn't enough for any kind of memory to be formed. from that. So I'm fine with giving Prime Trilogy whatever system it's on. I don't care. The gameplay of it is great. I like the
Yeah.
first two. I'm sure I would have loved the third one. Totally fine with giving that an A.
I think when we look at like the idea of having compilations, especially for that genre, like that era, like it was Super Mario All Stars was such a fantastic compilation, and then you have Metroid Prime Trilogy. It's hard to argue against a game that is 3 solid games in one package for one price. It's just weird that it's 2 years
Yeah.
after Corruption.
Mhm.
Isn't that kind of weird that if you bought Corruption 2 years later, you can
It
get all
is-
3 in one
No.
disc?
Well,
It's
it
a
was
weird
because of
business
the
move.
change in controls. The Wii remote controls were
Yes.
so
I'll give you that.
superior to the
I'll give you
GameCube
that.
controller.
Okay, all right.
And I know it's people think of it as gimmicky, the waggle controls, all that, and it's not something you can really do these days unless you have a Wii or a Wii U.
Mhm.
But at the time, it was solid controls. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I can ever play it another way and think, oh yeah, this is better than the Wii remote controls.
Which you do have the option, if I'm not mistaken, of using the GameCube controller on I don't know about Corruption, but on the trilogy. Am I wrong with that?
I don't know. I downloaded the trilogy on the Wii U and I played it there all with the Wii remote. I didn't even
gotcha.
bother trying anything else, so I can't say.
But no, what Wolf said I 100% agree with is had they just re-released the trilogy 2 years later without any sort of changes other than it's a compilation, it would have been very weird. But they saw how well they did the controls with Corruption on the Wii. They said, "Oh man, can you imagine if we put this with the first one?" And then of course they're going to throw the second one in and put the price tag on it, and here we are. So I think it was justified.
Cool. All right. So we'll give the trilogy on the Wii a nice little A, and now we are looking down the barrel of another M.
Yeah. Other M.
Yes.
Have any of you played this?
A little
All the
bit.
way
I
through,
think
no.
Again,
Yeah.
I've
enough to the first
diddled it.
boss. Yeah.
I've done enough to know it exists.
What did you think of it in terms of what did you think of it? Let's hear.
For me, so I felt it was also very front loaded with the story. I did not like that at all. It felt more like Fusion in that regard. I was glad to see a 2D Metroid, but with 3D graphics, which was fantastic. The 2D parts were okay, but I didn't like when you had to switch to the Wii remote to point at the screen to fight bosses. That was really rough to me, very clunky. But again, I only played the first part of the game. So I did not like the back and forth between first person and the 2D gameplay at all.
Okay. So I want to throw out there, I've read a number of reviews and what people think of this on like Reddit and stuff. And essentially it seems to come to mechanically, the game is really good. Story-wise, it's garbage.
Right.
And so for me, that seems like it would put it in a C.
So you know how like with Star Wars, especially the original trilogy, there's a lapse in time between A New Hope and Empire and then Return of the Jedi.
Mhm.
So the things that we see are really awesome, but if you were to go back and look at like the day-to-day lives of everybody, that would not be a great set of movies. Like the interim, that's kind of how this is to me. It's like Samus's downtime, or when she's not out there just kicking ass.
Samus
takes on the
shopping at
bureaucracy.
Walmart.
I don't know, but I'm
Well,
just
no,
like
the problem with this one is what I've read is that Samus is portrayed in a way that makes her seem very not confident, very weak, emotionally and confidence.
Yeah.
Like it's not the character that we know Samus to be. And so
well, she
that's the
thrives
problem
better
with
on
the
her
game.
own. Like I think you could make that. She's meant for the stars. She's meant to be the loner out
Yeah,
there.
but this
You put her
also
around
takes
these people.
place after so many of the Metroid games, and then in this, she's like scared of things that she should not be quite so scared of. Like she's on edge a lot and nervous, I guess, and she's just written in a way that makes her feel like you're controlling the damsel
I got you.
Listen,
instead of the hero.
Earth
There's a whole
prices have
PTSD conversation
inflated.
there.
Well, yeah, Earth's prices have inflated, and she's worried about the price of tomatoes. It is what it is. You just got to learn to live with it. Samus goes to the supermarket. It's
Ow.
kind of.
But hey, they brought back the corkscrew kick or whatever, if I'm not mistaken. So there's
There you go.
But yeah, I didn't care for it. I didn't make it very far. Kind of in a similar way of like I was saying with the Game Boy. If you mess with my aspect ratios too much, It's the same reason I didn't play Mega Man 7 or 8. It moved differently. It didn't feel right. Took me out of it. So I don't think I bought it. I think I was gifted this game. And I started it and didn't get very far.
I bought
And
it for
really
$8
only
at
ever heard
Goodwill.
bad things.
Never touched it. I've meant to, but just never did.
Never nice.
I'd say it's probably a D. I don't want to say it's an F. I don't know if there's any F tier Metroid, but if there
just
is,
you wait.
this is probably it.
But yeah, I'm fine with the C, honestly. Like, if the gameplay is solid throughout, Wolf, then I think C is fine. It just sucks that they really shafted the character. Samus Aran's one of the few badass characters in gaming that I like a lot. I think a C is to ruin that is weird to me, especially with Samus. So,
Yeah.
but I'm fine if the gameplay is good. So C.
Agreed.
Okay.
That.
Sure.
Yeah, I think seeing as we have limited experience with it, I think C is fair based on what I've read online. So
Brilliant.
All right, who wants to briefly dump all over Metroid Prime Federation forces so we can move on?
I mean, it's got 2 Fs in the title.
That's
Oh,
three
I
Fs now.
never played. I didn't know this one existed.
Yeah. So this is the 3DS.
This is the one where there's no Metroids and no Samus.
and no single player. It's a multiplayer.
Yeah, and it's
focused
only
game.
multiplayer, and it's
Yeah.
on 3DS, right? Like,
Yeah, it's 3DS.
what were they thinking? They were like, let's
Yeah.
make a Metroid game with none of the things people think of when they think of Metroid. That'll be
Especially-
a success.
So this
Especially
happened.
6 years after M came out. 6-year gap in the franchise, and you come back with the multiplayer game where you don't play as Samus, and it's on the 3DS.
Ugh.
Like, come on.
Is this the Spider Woman or whatever that was version where like if we don't pump a game out, we're gonna lose the rights? So where Samus? Oh, this is during her Smash Brothers stint, so she's not available.
Yeah. She's unavailable. She's busy.
Put Biggs and
if I
Wedge in there.
remember, if I remember right, this was released more of as like an experience, like a demo of what the 3DS could do, because it was a first-person game. It had the 3D because the 3DS had that 3D effect, right?
Mm.
And this is kind of a showcase for that at stores. But yeah, gameplay. I've played a little bit of it. I did not like it. I didn't like the character designs. They're very blocky and super deformed for some reason. The fact that you're not Samus, from what I remember, wasn't great. Yeah, I think this is the F in our list.
Do you guys want to go see that new Ninja Turtle movie that's told through the eyes of the Foot Clan?
You're right.
Let's go do
The
that.
one guy.
No, it's
Yeah.
not even the eyes of the Foot Clan. It's like the eyes of Fred from New Jersey.
Oh yeah, no, I know Fred from Jersey. Sure.
Yeah.
What's he been up to?
Yeah.
Oh, he's out in
Hidden
space now.
story
Okay.
untold. Yeah.
It'll be $20. Forget about it.
So I think F for this one.
Yeah.
I think
As
it's
a
already been
Metroid
locked
game
in stone.
goes, it's not much of a Metroid game.
And Fred
Right.
from Jersey, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying.
Yeah, we're not
picking.
picking on you. We're just saying,
No.
like, that would not be a good Ninja Turtles movie.
Fred from Jersey is our new mascot. There you go.
Oh, hold on, Fred from Jersey, you're on. Press B. What do you got?
All right.
right.
What
We
Fred's
lost
got
it.
is the next drip in our wear of Metroid. I'm trying to speak to the Gen
It's
Xers
okay.
here.
It's all right.
Oh, Gen Zers. I'm
Let
Gen
him
X.
cook.
Metroid Returns. So Metroid Samus Returns. This was the reinvented, reimagined after the cease and desists for the AMSR2 kept finally getting thrown out there. Nintendo said, you know what? Let's just fucking do it. Let's
Yeah.
just finally do it. And they made their own remaster. I've played it. It's a lot of fun. It's okay. It's not, it's just more of the same in Metroid 2 with added color and a little bit more effect to it. I still prefer. I like the grabbing on the ledges, but I'm with you, GP, on the aspect ratio thing. It just messes with my head. Things are too quick. It's too smooth. It's played on a small surface. I don't know. I actually like the AMSR 2 remake better when I messed around with that. I know. Don't cancel us, but I'm sorry.
It's
It was a
AM2R,
really
I
good.
think, is
Is it
Yeah,
A?
another
I thought-
Metroid 2 remake, AM2R.
AM2R.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
Sorry.
Metroid second remake. That's what I was,
Yeah.
AMSR or AMARSM, whatever. Acronyms are fun. Anyways, this is I liked it. It's fun. It was cool when I realized what it was. But I still like the Game Boy version. Just it's a nostalgic thing for me. It's just, reliving the past. So I give it a C or a B.
Yeah.
it's all right.
Have you ever been pressured into doing something that you didn't want to do, but was not a horrible thing? Like, for example, you're babysitting your nephew, and he's like, Uncle GP, because that's what he called me. Will you take me for ice cream? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to take you for ice cream. Your mom's going to be back in 10 minutes. And then he just will not relent. And so you're going to get ice cream and you're licking the ice cream. You're like, I'm glad I have this ice cream, but I didn't really want to do this. That's this experience. It should have been called Metroid. Now, will you all shut up, please? You know, it was a half-hearted thing to placate the fans. And it
definitely felt
exactly that way. I'm glad I have it, but
all right.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've not played this, so I can't say one way or the other. So I will remove myself from this one.
Okay, so here's the thing with this one. So it was for the 3DS. This was made by Mercury Stream. Mercury Stream, I think the name of the studio was, and they're the guys who did Dread afterwards, 5 years later.
And
so that's
Mercury
relevant.
Steam, didn't they do Castlevania Lords of Shadow?
I think so. Yeah. So they did Returns. So what is good about it? The graphics pretty good, pretty solid. It looks great on the 3DS. I really like the combat. Like the controls are really good. They added like a counter move, which you do see in Dread. We'll talk about it in a minute. So there's a counter move, but they force you to use that counter move in pretty much every boss encounter, and that felt very frustrating and clunky because you couldn't tackle the boss in your own way. You had to constantly use the counter. So I appreciate trying to make the gameplay a little bit different with Samus Returns, but it just didn't work. And then add in the same issues I had with the original Game Boy one, which was your goal is to take on Metroids, and there's a lot of similarity in the different Metroids you're hunting, and there's that finite amount of them. So, I mean, it's interesting. I'm glad they did it, but it's not, and it's no better than the original Game Boy one in my eyes. The clunky combat with the same repetitive hunting of Metroids didn't work for me, so I think it's a C for me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm glad I got my ice cream. But yeah, let's give it a C.
I mean, Metroid placate.
Like, yeah, nice.
I wanted a Metroid. I just wish it weren't like.
Just not under these circumstances.
I didn't want Neapolitan Metroid.
Yeah, Jesus.
A little eye contact.
Chocolate Metroids.
You know what I mean?
Left the strawberry in the package, you assholes. I don't want strawberry Metroids.
Right. Angry makeup nighttime stuff. Okay. Speaking, I'm trying to make it PC as best as I can. Okay. Fine, I'll do it. 2021.
Well, no, not if you don't want to.
Yeah. Well, no, and if you, 2021, the finally a release, a new Metroid that wasn't a placation, that was not a redone something from the past. It was his own thing. It was his own beast. Metroid Dread was released for the Switch, and I actually own that. I actually got that for Christmas, and I actually played it, and it was a lot of fun. Okay. I did play it. I beat it too. I even got to the last guy, and after about 400 million times, I finally beat that guy.
He's not watching the podcast. You can tell us. Did you really play it?
I really did play it. I have.
Can you play it 5 times for us on loop? Just beat it down for us like GP did, Mario.
No, I'm not GP. I'm not that good. But I did play. I love Metroid Dread. This was a great callback to what I remember and what I was wanting. Now I liked Prime. I loved Prime. I thought the 3D stuff. I mean, the first person stuff's great. But you always have a longing, right, for what it was originally, what you were playing with originally. Sure. The Emmy shit, that stuff was super stressful and super frustrating at times. But when you finally, like, I don't know, I think the worst part about the Emmy stuff was when you got the power up to take out the Emmy finally after you beat the boss and you absorbed whatever power you were going to get, and you were like trying to line up the damn line on on the Switch with the stupid control, and then you didn't have enough time because it was timed as it's crawling at you real slow, and you just see the laser sight missing its head because you're like, I can't get the goddamn thing to line, and then you die. Hundreds of times did I die to Emmy, but I liked it. I'm not a big espionage sneaker game guy. I'm trying to play Metal Gear Solid for GP so I can appreciate it to the way he does instead of just shitting it on all the time. I'm actually playing through 1 and 3 so that I can give it a more honest opinion other than I just impatient and can't do it. So it felt good in Dread, and then there was enough action, and I liked the way that the stage of state changed when you changed something. Like there was a the lava stage would get frozen over, and then there was all totally frosted over. So you had to figure out how to get through all the old stuff. There was a little bit of backtracking that I was kind of like, I'm gonna hit my head against the fucking wall because all this was open and now none of it's open, and I got to figure out a way around that. And it seemed like they were just trying to take what they had and stretch a little bit more out of you. But I'm giving it a good B+ and A- kind of game. I was glad that it came back the way that it did. It felt good on the Switch. When you played it on the big screen TV or on your monitor or something, it looked fantastic. It was a lot of cool aspects to the game. So I think Metroid Dread was a great callback, and we need more of that. I would like some more Metroid Dread-esque type games because that was a lot of fun.
Are you upset that the next thing is going to be Prime 4? Would you rather than
No.
do like a Dread 2?
Nope. I like the interchange. Like I'd be fine with a first person and then a side scroller and first person side scroller. Just kind of jump back and forth. Like
Gotcha.
give me my old stuff, but I still like Prime. I think Prime's pretty cool.
Yeah, Chard really nailed it with what he said. Like I loved Metroid Dread. I thought it was really like a good next attempt at Metroid that we had seen just kind of sit there for a while untouched. Particularly a 2D entry. And like you said, it stressed me the hell out. Like I could only play this game for so long before I had to be like, that's enough of this for today. A lot of games I'll be like, I could just play. And this one was like, all right, I did that. Let's come back later or tomorrow and do some more. Like this one had
you get that red light on you, and you're just freaking the fuck out. Like you're sitting there playing it, and you're trying to get past Demi. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt everybody.
That's
and
fine.
then like my parents were visiting because I got it for Christmas, and they were at the house at the time. And I'm like trying to sneak past this thing, and then the alarms go off, and somebody goes, "Hey, Chardmonk," because my parents call me that. I go, "What? What? Oh, I'm sorry." By something. What?
I'm back on Earth.
So, it really does lock you in very, like, you're very locked into the game while you're playing it. And then, like you said, once you get out or you beat the Emmy or whatever, it's like, okay, I need like 30 minutes, dude.
You need some breathing time before you can continue playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this like Dread is a spot on title for this game because you're constantly like, whenever you go through an area where an Emmy is, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
This again. And it's not like you don't want to play it. It's just like, how am I going to die and how many times here?
Oh.
Right. It is like the Resident Evil series of Metroid.
But
yeah.
I would give Dread an A. I thought it was a really good 2D Metroid game.
Okay.
Yeah, when I bought this, I loved Dread 2. I thought it was really great. Runs great on the Switch. The Emmy stuff is interesting. When I first played Dread, I almost felt it was out of place, but then going back to the earlier games, you do recognize that there are horror elements in those games. Not quite like Dread has. Dread is very stressful. But where it fails a bit is that there's maybe just one or two too many encounters with Emmy. I think it was once or twice to be fine, but it just felt like you're doing the same thing, but a different maze layout. But it was the same mechanics. You're escaping, getting the power up, and then you take it out. And it was a bit too much. I tell you though, what I really love though, it's Metroidvania for a newer generation who may not have the patience for the older Metroids, where you could get lost very easily and confused on where to go. There's generally no confusion where you go in Dread for the most part, because it does like change the map to such a degree where you still have to explore a chunk of the map in backtracking, but by locking out certain areas with environmental effects, you don't need to explore that section. It kind of tells you, no, explore over in these 2 sections or 3 sections. And I felt that was a bit more accessible to maybe people who are newer to the genre. Although I laughed when I saw people complaining how to find certain areas, you have to shoot blocks to make them disappear, which is a trope in Metroid. But if you're new to the game, if you're new to the franchise and you play this for the first game in Metroid, that is kind of jarring and it's kind of a pain. But I thought it was a good callback as well. This is definitely a love letter to the original games. I love how when you start it up, it even says in the opening, it's Metroid Dread, it's Metroid 5, right? Like it's you got the first game, then you have the second, Super Metroid, Fusion, and then this one. It's the 5th game. Even though it's 15 years later, it's like that Beverly Hills Cop movie that just came out. It's a sequel to a 30-year-old movie. That's what it's like.
I can't wait to see it. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
I've heard
I
really
heard it's
good
really
things
good.
about that.
Yeah.
Sayers. I hope
So
Sayers
Dread
is in it. Sure he is.
Dread is really fantastic, from music to graphics to everything. It's not S tier. I'm with you, Wolf. I think it's a solid A. It's weird to have when this game comes out in 2021. People were kind of questioning, is it enough value in the game that you're playing for the $60 price tag? I think there
Yes.
is, but there's
Mhm.
definitely not much in the way of replay value, which is something we're kind of used to having in modern games. This is less of a modern game, and it feels like a retro game. And I'm fine with that $60 price tag, but I can see why other people would be upset with Dread being $60. So I don't know. I think it's a solid A, though. I think it's definitely one to play. Give me more of this. I want more of
Right.
Dread. I hope we get Dread 2 or Metroid 6 from Mercury Stream. Give it back to them because they did a great job with this one. I want to see it, but I want to see it in less than 10 years. I don't want a 15-year gap, and I don't know if we're going to see it again because it did not sell nearly as well, I think, that other games have in the franchise.
Yeah, this one also got dialogue too, and you actually hear Samus's voice,
Yes.
but she only speaks in that alien language. She does not speak English. She speaks in Chozo or something. So
Right.
that was interesting.
Space Chocobo.
Nice.
Space Chocobo. Yeah.
This game came out, and I remember wanting so badly to play it that I avoided it like the plague, to avoid spoilers and all that kind of stuff. And I have not played it yet, and I still avoid it because I'm really looking forward to it being my game of the year, probably this year or next year, whenever I do finally get around to it. So again, I kind of have to abstain, but from what I know about it, it's the counter opposite of Other End, where I have no experience with it really, but I've heard so many great things about it. I'm really excited to get to it whenever that does happen. So.
Well, good. I was going to say that there's a pretty good twist in it, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody or you, so we'll keep it to that. But I like the story in it. I think it's got some great attributes. It feels like a Metroid 5. It definitely brings back all the things that we liked about it. It reminds me of a newer version of Super Metroid, which is what we wanted. It's what I wanted. And today's youth isn't used to seeing Metroid on the side. They're used to seeing it, front and center. They're used to the primes, not what the four of us grew up playing. So it's a different aspect for it. I definitely give it an A. I think Dread is a great callback to what us retro players grew up playing and where the Metroidvanians came into. And I think it's a great ending or maybe beginning of the next set of Metroid 6. Maybe, I don't know. They keep doing the Mega Man X's and the Mega Mans. That would be pretty sweet. So that works for me. Okay. We've got one more on this list. I would love to burn through it because I'm burning through this chair right now. If you hadn't noticed,
real quick on this one.
This last one was just released this last year, which is basically just Metroid Prime Remastered, which was sent out on the Switch, so you could replay it on there. I have not played the remastered, so I don't have anything to say about it. If it's anything like their fucking original, then I'm just going to give it the same grade that I gave it when I first played it. I'm going to give it kind of an S tier with better graphics, I guess. I don't know. Does anybody have any? Is there anything outside of it looking prettier that makes Metroid Prime Remastered?
They took out the sequence breaking stuff. Like I said, they still haven't re-put it in. No, the one reason I haven't bought it for the Switch is because they changed it. Give me the original formula. Let me sequence break it on my handheld so I can walk around.
Let's drop it down to a B then. An A or a B?
I bought it and enjoyed it, but I would say this is an A. I would be okay with that. I haven't played it. Like I was like, hey, again, no waggle controls. I'm not really sold on it anymore. But
fair.
Unless the Switch does allow that with the Joy-Cons, I'm not sure.
I can't recall they did that. I know they definitely put a lot of work into standard modern controls for Metroid Prime in this, and I've heard nothing but good things about the modern control scheme for this. This is definitely, from my understanding, I think this is an A. I think I agree with you, GP. Like an A. Sorry about the sequence breaking, but they definitely put a lot of work into making it look better. I can definitely see how this is a stepping stone to bring in Metroid Prime 4 in the future, hopefully near future. And if you like the original, I think you're going to love this one, especially when it's like, 21 years since the first one came out. I mean, it's bringing it to a whole new audience. So that's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, quick. I'd like to correct myself. Apparently, it does have the waggle controls. However, it sounds like the gyro is not quite as accurate as the infrared from the Wii U remote
Sure.
or from the Wii remote.
Oh,
So
yeah. Okay.
With the
Okay.
chucks.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Well, here is our list, everybody. You can get on Discord and tell us how terribly wrong we are, or tell us how you couldn't agree more with all of our choices. I think this is a pretty solid list of all the Metroid games
I think
here.
so.
I don't think too many people will argue with this one, to be
Right.
honest, unless
What a
somebody
great
out there is
series.
just like, Federation Force is the greatest Metroid game I've ever played. What are you guys talking about? Please come and tell us that on the Discord. Blow us up.
Do you
Give
not
us-
have
give us all the
friends
crap.
to play multiplayer? What's wrong with you people?
know.
I can see it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
to be
Okay.
fair, I looked it up, and some people think it's a decent spin-off, but I don't know. It never appealed to me, and when I tried the demo, I was not into it at all.
Fair.
At Best
I would-
Buy.
I definitely say everybody should try out Hunters before Metroid Prime. If you're interested in Prime 4 coming out, go play Hunters. It'll be lore relevant if you
Okay.
care about the Metroid lore.
We love our lore. We love our lore here at Press Speed.
God save me, I do.
All right. Great list, guys. Great episode.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's go ahead and do the sign-offs and the send-offs from everybody. Guys, Jake, do you have anything that you would like to announce, or anything you're doing? Anything coming up?
Just that I'm making amazing progress in Elden Ring. I should have taken that as my Sisyphean game at the start of the damn year. I'm actually having a real blast with it. I just finished I'm in Crumbling something Azula or whatever.
From
Anyway,
Azula. Crumbling from Azula.
I'm there and I'm at the boss, the Malakath, the beast clergy guy. I'm fighting him now. He's tough, but tough in a fun way. So I'm
The
kind of looking
man
forward to
that
beating
stole
him.
the
and then-
death rune for
Yeah.
fucking Rainy.
yeah, but that game. I tell you, I almost want to do another episode on Uncharted because I have thoughts now that I've played such a big chunk of it. But
Let's
anyway,
do
game
it.
is
Let's
great.
revisit. Let's revisit. We can have once I
third time?
finally beat Radon, you and I can revisit. We can record
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Werewolf, you're not sweltering in this heat much like I am. Holy crap. Well, that's because you're downstairs and I'm upstairs.
Well, it's getting pretty
You're
hot in
lower
here,
and I'm
but yes,
higher.
I am downstairs, and the sun doesn't get to hit this room very long. All the heat in here right now is coming from all these damn lights. That's what I'm suffering from. But
I look like a southern prosecutor losing his
Yeah.
case right now.
I do
God.
declare.
What do you got coming up, Wolf?
I did, like I said, I just finished Bloodstained. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Ritual of the Night for the first time. I finally played through it, and then I played through with one of the alternate characters. Absolutely loved it, had a blast, and I picked up the DLC for it this morning and beat 2 bosses in it already. And it is very much like Simon's Quest. It's awesome. I'm loving it.
Right.
Nice.
Good.
I've not played the DLC for that. I haven't played that one in a
I
while.
just-
I beat that game. a
Well,
while
the
back.
DLC just came out like 2 weeks ago. It
Oh,
just
second
kind of out
one.
of nowhere
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Love
but
a shadow.
yeah,
Love a
it's-
good shadow drop. Okay. All right, perfect. GP, sir, what do you got? You got anything going on?
No, I like I said last time, I'm working on really one big project, so I haven't had a ton of time for games. But I will say this episode has got me in the mood to play through a couple of Metal Gear games, and of course the Prime
Random.
series. So
Not random, but random.
I do have and I want some ice cream. Damn it! So probably gonna go get me some chocolate.
For those
chip.
of you who are listening and not watching, we showed off several of our Metal Gear Solid games
And
during my
player's
small
guide.
snippet
Yeah.
of trying to relate with GP with his espionage games. So.
It's like ribs. I don't think about ribs all that often for food. And then somebody says like, "Hey, you want ribs?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I want
Hell
ribs."
yeah, I
hell
do.
yeah.
And that's
Why
how
are
it
we
is. I don't
doing
think
that?
about Metal Gear that often.
Yeah.
But when I do, I'm like, "Yeah, I want those ribs."
All right. And of course, Sinistar is out this evening, but let's go ahead and give him a shout out with DJ Spinistar. Please
Spinistar.
go and give our DJ buddy a follow and a like and a love if you haven't already. And go listen to him drop some fat beats on Mondays and Tuesdays. He's
The illest.
well, yeah, it's always Mondays, sometimes on Tuesdays, but he's been hitting those bricks pretty good. Also, he hangs out with Soul Archaic on Saturdays as well. So when you're done listening to us Saturday morning, go over there and check that out too. And you can find me hating my life with Promise Consort Radon, trying to figure out whether I'm going to quit Elden Ring altogether or just do this until I retire, because I don't know what else to do. I've never ran into a boss as hard as I have since ever. I can't think of a single FromSoft game that has put me in this position since I did All in the Family, Symphony of the Night Retro Achievement. That took me 10 hours to get. That's no joke. That was a 10-hour stream before I popped that achievement. So I'm just trying to treat it like another RA game. But beyond that, you catch me over at Twitch, www.twitch.tv/Chardmonk. You know me. You know where I'm at. Just listen to the cursing. It's easy to find.
You know.
That's all I've got. I don't think there's anything else that's coming up. Gentlemen, this has been a fantastic episode. I love our list. I love you guys, and I love Metroid. So until next time, this is Press B to cancel.
The best Metroids have been recognized. The galaxy is at peace.
All right, stopping.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Very
The
well
voice
done.
changer.
I had to
Very
find
well
that
done.
voice like 10 minutes ago while we were recording.